Who's the richest person in history?
If someone with an average salary wanted Elon Musk's net worth, they would have to work for 8 million.
Elon Musk is worth $400 billion now. I feel like we watch so many videos about billionaires, but it's so interesting. It's so interesting hearing about people that just have an absurd amount of wealth that they would never be able to spend.
30 times longer than human beings have existed. And in the time it's taken me to tell you this, Elon has made another $100,000.
Elon's made 100K in 11 seconds. So you think he could just start buying nonstop? Bro, I don't get why they keep the... I've said this so many times. If I'm that rich, I understand at that point, now they're just like fighting to be the most powerful, richest person in the world. That's what they care about. That and advancing whatever weird goals they have. But I feel like if I was that rich, I'd be like, bro, I'm just going to like bum. Like just donate half that... I know it's net worth, but I would liquidate all my assets, donate half of it, and then just bum on a private island for the rest of my life. Like, what the fuck are you doing? You could buy anything. Most of the time, they just, like, hodl the money, and they never sell it. They just leave it as unrealized gains.
The easiest thing about Elon is that he's not even the richest person in history. He's actually not...
Who the fuck is richer than Elon Musk outside of Mansa Musa?
Even close. If you look back in time, there are people...
Maybe like dictators, like Stalin or Hitler, like, were they, like, I mean, there wasn't really like an attached value, but I feel like they probably had some level of John D. Rockefeller, but I don't even think he was that rich. I mean, he was really rich, but I'm saying I think now he would probably be like 5 billion.
With a Colombian billionaire who revolutionized the energy supplement industry. Pablo Escobar. He was
Did he say energy supplement? The cocaine business?
Pablo Escobar. He was raking in $420 million a week, but his net worth...
Oh! 420 mil a week? Damn.
After inflation only reached 80 billion. So on paper, he's not even beating Elon. But unlike everyone else in this video, Pablo's wealth was...
It's such a different level of... I feel like you gotta factor in power, bro. Pablo Escobar... I would say had much more power than Elon Musk in his time. Like, Pablo Escobar had people that he could control at a whim. Like, at the drop of a dime, dude, they would do anything. Like, he ran the... That's what I'm saying. Like, the richest person in money, yeah, is like Elon Musk, you're going net worth. But in terms of, like, rich, like, power and, like, wealth... like in just assets or like gains in general, I feel like it's just going to be somewhat like fucking Genghis Khan.
In this video, Pablo's wealth wasn't tied up in stocks or politics. He just had literal dollars. He was spent...
Which I would say is also more valuable. If you have 80 bill in liquid cash, that's probably way more valuable than 400 bill net worth. Actually, no, because you could leverage that and just take out mass loans and then never pay them back fully. Like, that's what billionaires do, bro. They're just constantly cycling debt, where they're able to just constantly be in the red, even though they have unrealized gains. They just sell them to pay off debt, and then they never pay taxes.
He just had literal dollars. He was spending $1,000 a week on rubber bands just to hold them together, and damage to them cost him $2 billion a year. So Pablo wasn't the richest person in history overall, but if we're talking actual cash, he probably was. But let's go back in time to see a very different kind...
Yeah, actual fucking raw money.
...kind of wealth. The year is 1945. World War II just ended. And in America, millions of soldiers are coming home. They'll return to a blue-collar economy, where families can be supported on a single income. The American dream is alive and well. How's everyone else doing? It's in these ruins where we'll find one of the richest men to ever live. Joseph Stalin.
Oh my god, I called that shit. Dude, yeah. You're the main dictator of Soviet Russia.
Was uninterested in money. He had practically no personal possessions outside of his pipes, books, and plain military tunic. He did live much better than his citizens, having access to things like food, but he wasn't basking in luxury. His pay stubs show him making today's equivalent of $30K a month, but according to his son, he just let the checks pile up on his desk, and he probably didn't.
But it's like, at that point, money doesn't matter, bro. You're the leader of a huge country, like one of the biggest by landmass. It's just... and power at that time. Like, what's him having money? He could do whatever he wants. He's basically the government. He could just reach into the fucking country's pockets and spend it on what he wants.
Didn't even have a savings
Ooh, Julius Caesar's a good guess.
account. The reason Stalin is considered one of the richest men in history, despite technically having no money, is because he didn't need money. He already owned the entire state. Doing anything that questioned his power, even something like telling a private joke, would get you gulagged or executed. Stalin had so much control that after he had a fatal stroke, no one called a doctor for 12 hours because everyone was too scared of Stalin waking up and punishing them for acting without official orders. So despite being broke on
So they saw him die and just waited for 12 hours to see if his heart would start up back up again?
paper, Stalin had complete control over an economy that would today be worth $10 trillion.
And we're going up from here? We're going up from here? I thought you were going to say like maybe 500 bill. We're not going up from $10 trillion. Yeah, I mean, he basically held the GDP of his country.
See, in order to find the richest person in history, we need to think bigger than just money.
He's going power. He's going power. Ooh, okay. Wait, he just showed half the faces of the people. Next one's Hitler. Who else is fucking big? I feel like Genghis Khan. Who else held a lot of land mass? Maybe like who was a leader of like the British empires during like the conquering of like the world days? Like a king, Louis the 14th. Yeah, somebody like that.
In this video will represent a different time period and a different form of
Alexander the Great Alexander the Great held like modern day like 3 countries. I feel like Alexander the Great was a crazy military commander. He never lost a major battle. Like, he was goated in his era, but he didn't have like wealth. Alexander the Great, land he held. Like, he conquered not that much land in modern day. Like, he held, for his time, it was crazy. But, he held, like, modern-day Egypt, Macedonia, all the way to, like, Gundera. Like, this is, like, bro, this is, like, 4 countries. This is, like, not a lot of land. It's just, then it was.
Wealth, whether it be political power or a cash or a company equity. And in the end, only one will be determined as the richest person in history.
He had the biggest empire ever. Alexander the Great did not have the biggest empire ever. What is the biggest empire ever? Probably the Roman Empire. Oh, the British Empire. That's what I was saying. Then the Mongol Empire by land. Continuous land empire is the Mongol Empire. British Empire had the most land in general. 25% of Earth's surface in 1920.
So let's move on to our next contender. In 1909, Adolf Hitler was homeless. He had moved to Vienna to pursue his dream of becoming an artist, but things weren't really working out. He got rejected from art
Austrian painter
school and found himself selling small paintings and postcards just to get by and sleeping in hostels. Then, after fighting in the First World War and
That's him?
Then, after fighting in the First World War and beginning his political involvement, he attempted to forcefully overthrow the government, which got him locked up for 9 months. Hopefully, he'll use these 9 months to reflect and reform
and write Mein Kampf
and turn himself into a better person. He wrote Mein Kampf.
Yeah.
Upon release in 1925, the Racism Manifesto met with mediocre sales, but as Germany's situation declined, Mein Kampf's popularity grew, and when Hitler took power in 1933, the book was everywhere. It was also around this time when Hitler realized he had access to developer commands. He instructed the government to buy 6 million copies of his own book and hand them out to soldiers, government officials, and newlyweds. He then avoided a $2 million bill by making himself tax exempt. His next lick was copywriting his own image, which allowed him to collect royalties on every postage stamp sold in Nazi Germany. Then he copyrighted his speeches so he could collect money when they were printed in the news. These passive income streams made Hitler millions. By the end of his life, Mein Kampf had sold around 10 million copies, which actually isn't an insane amount. For reference, he was outsold 3-1 by Anne Frank, but Hitler did have one last side hustle. Between 1933 and 1945, it was estimated that he received over $5 billion in donations from his supporters, most of this coming from wealthy businessmen.
Wait, is that Rockefeller? Or is that Ford? That's an American billion. That's Ford. Henry Ford donated the majority of the $5 billion to Adolf Hitler.
To milk out of his position, but his real wealth came from his military might. At its peak in 1942, Nazi Germany controlled nearly all of Europe, stealing hundreds of billions in resources and putting millions of people into forced labor. So through his conquests, Hitler commanded resources worth $3 trillion in today's dollars. But before dictators, there was a man building a very different type of empire.
Oil.
Henry Ford had a revelation. If you pay them more and let them sleep, your slaves won't revolt. In 1914, Henry made the radical decision to double wages from $2.50 to $5.
Yeah, I think a lot of people praise CEOs that give good benefits to workers, but a lot of the times they do that for competitive advantage to boost their own gain. Not necessarily saying that they didn't want to do it, but it's like being a good boss is not necessarily a moral endeavor. It could be a financial-based gain.
$5 a day. He then cut the work week from 6 days to 5 days. After seeing...
Yeah, and it's wild that that's the system we run today. It went from 60 hours to 40-hour work weeks, and there's picket signs that people would have that said 8 hours rest, 8 hours work, 8 hours sleep, or 8 hours rest, 8 hours work, 8 hours like leisure. And so it was like 8, 8, and 8. And that's what you wanted to do 5 days a week. Rest meaning sleep. And now we still rock the same 40-hour work week.
After
At
seeing
least in the U.S.
operations of meatpacking plants, Ford organized his workers in a line, an assembly line.
Cut it down to 20. I think reasonable's 30. I think having people work 6 hours 5 days a week, or like 10 hours 4 days a week, makes more sense. Because you can't reasonably bump the average person to work down to 20. Because that's full part-time. Like, there would be a production level issue, I would assume. I've seen other countries work with 30, 38. How many does the average American? I feel like it's more than 40. 39. So it varies. What is like the lowest? What is the lowest average work hours per week? Vanuatu. Okay, I don't know. Kiribati, Mozambique, Austria, the average person works 29 hours a week. The Netherlands, the average person works 29 hours a week. See, that seems reasonable. Like, you're still getting shit done.
What resulted was production time for the Ford Model T dropping from 12 hours to 90 minutes. Prices dropped from $850 to $290. And for 50 years, the Model T was the most sold car in history. But Ford's greatest invention wasn't the assembly line or the Model T. See, after Ford made automobiles accessible to the masses, people...
Was it Ford that had his own fucking current? No, it wasn't Ford. What CEO, or was it multiple, that had their own currency? Where, like, they would live in a town and work for the CEO, and they would get fake money that was only redeemable at that business. So it was like a cyclical loop of, like, being forced to work for the guy you worked for now. Oppenheimer? Okay. I'm talking to a brain dead chatter right now. Company stores. Oh, so it wasn't just one person. Company stores in the 19th century gave employees scrip or company money that could only be used at business-owned stores. It was not a legally recognized currency, but it basically kept all their workers in a cyclical debt and a dependency of their business.
Back and forth to work. And after the success of Ford's mass production methods, they were widely copied by companies and countries. The suburbs, commuting, and the modern work schedule can all be traced back to Henry Ford, which is why many credit him as the inventor of the middle class. So despite his measly $200 billion personal net worth, Ford's massive influence might make him the richest person in history. But Henry's success was only possible thanks to the men who came before him. It's the late 1800s. The telephone, telegraph, and light bulb are currently being invented. Pollution is awesome. Child labor is legal. Yes!
Bro, the craziest video we ever watched was learning about how chimney sweeps were like 6-year-olds. And it was like fairly common that they would get lost and die in someone's home.
Regulations don't exist. Long hours and unsafe working equipment give employees a healthy work-death balance. The stage is set for maximum capitalism. 3 men would define this era.
1870s? Bro, I don't even know billionaires from the 1870s. I know Andrew Carnegie was huge, but was that before Henry Ford? The Wright brothers. The Wright brothers. Rockefeller for sure. Said the Wright brothers. It's definitely not the Wright brothers. Were the Wright brothers rich? I feel like they were broke.
G being Cornelius Vanderbilt, who conquered the railroad industry and died with more money.
Isn't there a current newsman that is a descendant of Cornelius Vanderbilt? He's like a fucking modern news guy. Anderson Cooper. Anderson Cooper is like a literal word for word descendant. Anderson Cooper, descendant of Vanderbilt.
Than the US Treasury. The next was Andrew Carnegie, who made a fortune with steel, then devoted the rest of his life to philanthropy. And
that's me! I paid attention in history class. American steel.
This was during a time before charity tax advantages. He actually meant that shit, but the richest of the—
Wait, what? He donated all his money?
With steel, then devoted the rest of his life to philanthropy. And this was during a time before charity tax advantages. He actually meant that shit, but the richest of the three was John D. Rockefeller. In 1870, John founded Standard Oil. He quickly
didn't he create the anti-monopoly? I'm gonna sound like such a nerd. Didn't John D. Rockefeller get so big and he was such a big oil baron that he basically created the modern day like anti-monopoly rules where Rockefeller had to separate his company into a billion smaller companies because he was too big to fail. Like, he was almost larger than the government.
Stomped his competitors through innovation and screwing them over, and by the 1880s, he controlled 90% of America's oil refining. But his empire fell in 1911, when the US Supreme Court declared Standard Oil an illegal monopoly and ordered it to be broken up into 34—
Holy fuck. Yo, brother, we gotta put our foot down here. You're gonna have to break this up into 34 different companies. Hey, pal, I think this is getting a little too far.
New companies. This judicial punishment destroyed Rockefeller's fortune, and he ended up dying in poverty.
Just the fuck out of here.
Kidding. After the breakup,
Get the fuck.
He had ownership in each of the new companies, and their stock values soared, making him richer than ever before. The antitrust—
It made him more rich, but I feel like it removed the capability of power that he had.
breakup resulted in Rockefeller becoming the world's first billionaire, and at his peak in 1913, he was worth 2% of the US GDP.
Bro, but that's what's like so— oh god, he looks so fucking old. By the way, I'm not trying to make fun of him. A lot of people say I'm ageist and I make fun of old people a lot. You know, I do, but I'm not. You know, I'm not against old people. It's more so just like, holy fuck, like this guy looks so old. I'm just like, imagine being worth this amount of money in fucking 1912. Bro, what are you going to use on that? You're going to buy premium cocaine? I mean, bro, and he probably just bought like cool wooden chairs and shit. Oh, what a boring time to be rich. I mean, come on.
Peak in 1913, he was worth 2% of the US GDP. Estimates of his personal worth in today's dollars range from 4 to 600 billion, making him potentially the richest person ever. But before the robber barons, there was a family who bankrolled entire empires.
I see conspiracy theories about them. They're British or European. What family are they? The Rothschilds. And it'll always be some creepy music with one of the guys like this. And they always relate him to the Simpsons character. The Rothschilds. It'll be one of the Rothschilds kids and it'll be like... And it'll be playing some creepy music like... It's just like, some TikTok account with like 10 likes. Why the Rothschilds still run the world.
The year is 1744. The United States doesn't exist yet. The life expectancy is 30. Cities are full of shit.
30?
There's no—
well, that's because of infant mortality.
No electricity. In a small Jewish ghetto, Mayor Amschel Rothschild is born. He starts in business at a young age, working his way up from being a rare coin dealer to a successful banker. Then in the early 1800s, he launches a conquest. He sends his 5 sons to the 5 key financial centers of Europe. Every son does their part, and before the invention of the telephone, the Rothschilds have established the first international banking network. They finance wars and peacetime recovery, pay for massive projects like the Suez Canal, and give out loans that save countries' economies. But the Rothschilds have one serious problem. For centuries, Jews in Europe had been prohibited from owning land, blocked out of most industries, and at risk of property confiscation or exile. So in order to ensure their survival, the Rothschilds invested in stocks, bonds, and debts, rather than just tangible assets like gold or real estate that could have been taken or destroyed. Another method they used to ensure their wealth stayed within the family, the cousin technique. Through financial tactics and incest, the Rothschilds managed to mostly avoid persecution, but the extent of their wealth today is widely debated.
It's that guy! Oh my god! That's the picture! That's the picture! That's the picture. It's bro, this is literally the still frame image I see on it'll be like 3 a.m. It's like once a month I get a video about how the Rothschilds still run the world.
Some estimates have claimed the Rothschilds have a current net worth of $500 trillion.
What?
But the only Rothschild you'll find today on the Forbes rich list is Jeff Rothschild. He's worth $3.2 billion. He works at Facebook, and he is not related to the Rothschilds. The Rothschilds no longer have much centralized family wealth, but at their peak, their total worth would have been the largest single fortune in history. On an individual level, the richest ever was Nathan Rothschild. According to estimates, his peak net worth today would be around $20 billion, but his power and connections would likely have been worth a lot more. To find our next contender for the richest person in history,
I love that we're going back in time. I love Jack Pocket's videos. Love them.
Let's go back to
Did I like it yet? No.
Europe in the 1500s. Christopher Columbus just got back from America. The church owns everything, and Jacob Fugger is born into a wealthy German family. After inheriting the family business, Jacob starts expanding it from merchant trading to banking, and soon he's handing out massive loans to finance everything from art projects to wars and elections. In 1519, he spent the modern equivalent of hundreds of millions of dollars to get Emperor Charles V elected. But when Charles was slow to pay back his
He spent that much money to get people elected? So he just bribed people and shit?
debts, Jacob sent
Or just straight up, like, raw promotion?
him an angry letter reminding him of his place.
It is well known and clear as day that your imperial majesty could not have claimed the Roman crown without my help.
History repeats itself. Church officials
Oh my god. Without me, Trump would have lost the election. Dems would control the House. The Republicans would be 51-49 in the Senate.
Church officials ended up getting in so much debt to Fugger that they started selling heaven passes, called indulgences.
Bro, I had to learn about this in church and state. There was such a period of, like, this was a long period in like, Christianity in general, where, like, in that time, you could, if you were rich, you could do so many sins, and it didn't matter because you could just go pay your way to heaven. And it would effectively enable you to be the worst person ever because you just had money.
This led to a protest, which led to a religious revolution. Fugger had more influence than kings, but he was also a nice guy. He made the first ever social housing complex, and to this day, 150 people still live in these apartments at the cost of $1 a year, as well as 3 required daily prayers for the Fugger family. At his peak, Jacob owned 2
Is that a real requirement? 150 needy Augsburg citizens of the Catholic faith live here for annual rent of 88 pence per day. 3 daily prayers
for the Fugger family. At his peak, Jacob owned 2% of Europe's GDP, which would be around $400 billion today. But the richest person in history may have been further back in time.
Matsubusa.
In
Pre-watch chat, you guys all fucking already saw this video, didn't you? I already knew it, bruh. Literally all this content fake. All these chatters already seen this fucking shit. Pre-watched. Bullshit.
1324, a man went on a pilgrimage across Africa. His name was Mansa Musa, and he was the king of the Mali Empire. Mali had a lot of salt and a lot of gold. A lot of gold.
You know, the term this term salary comes from salt because you used to get a salt salary. Like they used to give you salt instead of money. So when you're like, what's your salary? It's actually a historical reference to what you would get paid in salt, because salt used to be very valuable.
So much gold that on Musa's pilgrimage, he covered himself, his 60,000 person entourage, and his hundreds of animals with thousands of pounds of gold. And then he handed out so much of that gold that it destabilized local economies. So he borrowed the gold back, which fixed the problem.
He gave away so much money that it fucked their economies.
Until he paid all the debts back at once and everything crashed again. After Musa's multi-billion-dollar road trip, he began showing up on maps decked out in gold, cementing his reputation in history as the original flexer. But estimating his net worth is borderline impossible, since all accounts of Musa's trek come from second-hand testimony. It's believed that Musa controlled about half of the world's gold supply, and the most common number
But how did he get that?
I found for his total worth was 400 billion, but many numbers went much higher. So based on the amount of valuable resources under his control, Mansa Musa may be the richest person in history. But go back 100 years and there was a man with a very different kind of wealth.
I don't know who these three would be. Genghis Khan. It literally says it. I called Genghis Khan. I kind of want to guess the other two before him. It's going to be Genghis Khan. I think the last one's probably going to be Julius Caesar. Who's the middle guy? Probably a king? No. George Washington. I think we are a little past George Washington. We are in the year 1200 right now. Do you know when George Washington was alive?
In the early 1200s, Genghis Khan controlled more land than any man in history. His Mongol Empire covered almost 20% of Earth's land area.
Isn't it like, what percentage of people in China are related to Genghis Khan? I think it's like 5% or some absurd number. 8% of men in the region of the former Mongol Empire. So like a lot of Eastern Asia are related to Genghis Khan. That's great, like a direct relation.
Making his estimated net worth today 130 trillion. But this is slightly misleading. Genghis never really had much wealth of his own, and this was actually vital to his influence. Rather than taking for himself, war loot was redistributed to soldiers and commanders to promote loyalty. Genghis wore the same clothes and ate the same food.
Yeah, like if you give me power and I can control you, you'll get all the gains.
As his crew. He slept in tents and asked to be buried with no markings or signs. Genghis Khan didn't really have desire for personal wealth or possessions, but based on his control of land, he may have been the richest guy to ever live. But let's go even further back in time.
I always wonder, what do you think the goal was? Like for Genghis Khan or people in that time that were just conquering land, was it just like something to do? They had to have a goal, a purpose, because like, not fun. I mean, it was just like, yeah, like world domination, control the world, but it was like, why? You know? Like there was a reason, power, probably the lust for power, like the need to control.
To the year 1 AD.
Jesus?
The people alive right now have no idea
No, it's going to be Julius Caesar.
that they're living through a turning point in history. They actually don't even know what year it is. Romans think that it's year 754. Jews think it's 3761. The Chinese think it's year 9. And for the Greeks, it's 194. Every country...
Dude, it still is crazy to me that Jesus didn't have a lot of money. I don't think Jesus had really much money at all. Anyways, I was just saying that because it said year 1. Anyways, what was I going to fucking say? Oh, what was I going to say? Oh, isn't it crazy that a lot of countries still don't operate on like the Roman calendar? Or not the Roman calendar, like the Christian calendar. What is the Christian calendar's name? Is it called the liturgical calendar? Or Gregorian? Yeah, the Gregorian year. What countries, what year is it? Year is it per country map? Like, dude, this is nuts. I love seeing this shit. Hold up. How do I full screen this? I mean, this is a very low quality image. But like most of the world is in the blue, which is the Gregorian calendar. But there's so many other countries in this region, in these regions, that like live by their own. I think they still operate under some sort of functionality in the Gregorian calendar because it's like that's what most of the world uses. But they still have their own calendar that they use casually.
Year 9, and for the Greeks, it's 194. Every country is kind of doing their own thing. America is building early cities thanks to the Mayans, India is trading through the ocean and Silk Road, China just invented paper, and in Rome, Augustus Caesar is balling. A few years prior, he defeated Mark Antony and Cleopatra in battle and snatched up Egypt as his personal property. He now controls around 20% of Rome's economic output, and that includes the tax flows, the treasury, the gold and silver mines, and revenue from conquered lands. He also has a money method where he kills rich people from his own empire just to take their stuff. After Caesar passes in the year 14, he officially gets declared a god with an estimated modern-day net worth of $5 trillion. But let's go back another 900 years.
900 BC, King Solomon.
Civilization is in its early stages. Most people live short, difficult lives. Money in the form of coins doesn't yet exist. King Solomon ruled.
Yeah, when was the first coin? Was that ancient Egypt? Well, ancient Egypt existed for a long time. Lydian coins in the year 600 BC in the Kingdom of Lydia in modern-day Turkey was made from gold and silver. These early coins were standardized in weight and marked with symbols like a lion to indicate their official status. I would love to own one of those coins. I am such a nerd for that shit, where it's like, this is the first fucking money that was ever used by humans. They're probably so rare.
The Kingdom of Israel, collecting
probably all in fucking museums.
Gold by the ton. His yearly tax revenue is 666 talents of gold.
See how much one goes for? I bet you can't even buy one. Ooh! Never mind. You could buy, I don't know if this is real or not. They have ones on eBay for $20 that are definitely fake. There's a silver one from 561 BC on eBay for $1,168.
Basks in his riches with his 700 wives, and in today's money, he's worth over.
Show us? No. Editor, throw up image. Lydia coin on eBay.
Over $2 trillion. But this is all according to accounts in the Bible, written hundreds of years. His riches with money in the form of coins doesn't yet exist. King Solomon rules over the Kingdom of Israel, collecting gold by the ton. His yearly tax revenue is 666 talents of gold. He basks in his riches with his 700 wives, and in today's money, he's
700 wives?
Worth over $2 trillion. But this is all according to accounts in the Bible, written.
Now, the weight of gold that came to Solomon in 1 year was 603 score and 6 talents of gold.
Hundreds of years after he would have lived. When we're this far back in time, details get murky. Written accounts are sparse and incredibly biased. The richest man from ancient times will never really know. So, who is the richest person in history? Looking at this graph, it seems like there's a lot of people who make Elon look broke. But these numbers don't tell the whole story. Hear me out. In 1913, John D. Rockefeller was worth 2% of US GDP. Today, Elon Musk is worth 1.4% of US GDP. So Rockefeller had a larger share of the economy, making—
Yeah, I think having a share of the world, whatever you owned of the world, is how rich you were. So it has to be somebody from a long time ago.
His inflation-adjusted net worth higher than Elon's. But here's the catch. The US economy today is 22 times larger than it was in 1913. Rockefeller had a bigger slice of a much smaller pie. Estimated numbers don't tell the story of how the entire world has become more and more prosperous over time. Elon is now the biggest fish in the biggest pond that has ever existed. On top of this, his wealth is a personal fortune. It's well documented and verifiable, unlike ancient figures like King Solomon.
Yeah, it's like King Solomon might literally be fully exaggerated. Like he probably was rich, but that might just be straight up like cap, that he had that amount of wealth.
It wouldn't disappear if he lost his positions of power. Unlike dictators and heads of state, he can access it for whatever he wants, and he harnesses technology that ancient figures would think is witchcraft. Elon is the richest person in history with his—
He's the richest person in history by money, but I don't think by power. I think Elon Musk— the richest person by power, I would probably say, was Joseph Stalin. Or Genghis. I feel like it was Joseph Stalin. Because you got to go like no one. Genghis Khan, yeah, but Genghis Khan was seen as equal by a lot of his men. Like, he ate with them. He did all that. Dude, people were afraid. Like, other people were afraid of Genghis Khan, and maybe his own people were. But I'm saying, like, dude, if you fucked with Stalin, you were dead. Like, your whole family was dead. Or fucking thrown into, like, a camp. Like, that's fucked. I think in modern times, the equivalent of that is, like, Kim Jong-un. Like, he's not the most powerful by any means, but over his people, like, dude, Kim Jong-un could fucking, he's not even in contention to this, but, like, in modern times, Kim Jong-un literally just runs his people. A lot of people say he's a figurehead and his sister actually runs the country. Regardless, it's like, if you're a citizen of North Korea and you do anything that he doesn't approve of, you and your family are fucked. Like, forever.
400 billion today. Eventually, someone will get even richer. But based on history, everyone else will get richer too.
I loved that video. That was my favorite video of the day thus far. Bro's excited over child labor. Jack thinking like he didn't profit off child labor, but was hyped for child labor. The way he said yes to child labor. You're meant for YouTube comedy, epic, fast, Skyrim music. Bro, his voice is... I'm going to glaze Jack Pocket so bad. But, like, the editing, the voice, the topics he chooses are so fucking entertaining. And it's like you're also learning something. So it makes you feel better in a sense where it's not like I'm just, like, brain rotting.